this video, I will be teaching you how to set up and properly sharpen a Toro greens mower head. The first thing that you want to do is adjust the feet distance. I've found that the best distance for the Toro heads is 4 3/4. And you'll see why in just a second why this is important that you have the correct distance so that parts aren't hitting. As you pull this reel up and on to the feet, you're going to clamp it down nice and snug using the clamps in the front. You'll also be using a clamp in the back. I use a couple 2x4s nailed together here. This does a couple of things. It makes it so the arm doesn't have to come up as far, and it seems to sit a little bit more flush on that back roller. As you can see here, there's a perfect gap between the feet and the bed knife. This allows the grindstone to move freely without hitting any of them. Now that you have your reel tightened down and it's not going to go anywhere, you need to adjust the grindstone to the reel to make sure it's hitting equally on both sides. So as you move it from one side, you're going to start spinning the reel, and you can hear that it's not hitting anything. So as you adjust the side levers here to adjust that stone closer to the reel, try to get those a little bit closer. I'll go about 10 to 15 points, and I'm going to switch to the other side to make sure I'm not hitting on that side. Because as you adjust one side, it will adjust the other. As I'm going to tighten this one down, slowly I can hear that it's going to start hitting. Okay, I'm going to start to hear that reel hitting the grindstone. So I'm going to go back to the other side, because it will change it as you adjust each one. Start tightening that one down. I can hear it start barely hitting. Okay, so I need to go back from side to side, and you just kind of have to do this by feel. Okay, so you can tell that one's starting to hit a little too hard, so I'm going to back it off to where it's just barely hitting. Okay, move that one back over, and now it's not hitting because I backed the other side off. Tighten it up to where it's just barely hitting. And you just do this for just a little bit, and you can just kind of start to hear and listen. You're going to listen for it. Okay, so we got that side's tight, that side. Now you have both sides are equally hitting. I'm going to bring it back to the middle, tighten down that grindstone, and then we're going to hook up the sides so that we can turn this reel on and get it sharpened. Alright, now we got to hook it up to the machine. Okay, we're going to use a special bit that came with the machine here. And this is going to fit right here into the reel, and I just have an extension that makes it easier to connect to this. Okay, we're going to make sure that this bolt here is loose. We're going to slide this over. I've already had this set up, but if it was off, okay, you'll need to adjust these pins here so that it lines up perfectly. And that when you tighten this down, the thick metal part is going to be able to suck into that. So as I tighten it in here, it's spinning, okay, and I can tighten that down so that when I turn the machine on, that's not going to go anywhere. Now that we have everything tightened down, the front's tightened down, the reel's leveled out, we have the side hooked up, we're going to come up here to our control panel. We see that our numbers are off, so we're just going to reset that. And then we're going to start from the top to the bottom, turning this machine on. 1, 2, as this reel gets going, you want to let it make a couple passes left and right as you check to see if it's hitting equally on both sides. As you can see here, I'm making a little bit of adjustments. I want it to hit just a little bit harder, so I tighten down the right and the left side just a couple points down so that it's hitting just a little bit harder, so it'll sharpen. You want to start it off kind of light so that when it starts up, it's not hitting really hard. And then you can kind of just sit here and watch it, make sure it's hitting equally both sides and moving okay. And then you can go on and continue taking off the other reels from the other mowers. Once it's made about 7 to 10 passes, depending how hard it's hitting, you're going to start backing off each side to prepare to stop it. So as you can tell, I back off the left, back off the right, about 10 to 15 points. And then the same thing, just starting one by one, taking off. Until this stops spinning. Okay, once it stops spinning and you feel safe, come up here and you just fill each side. So I'm just going to fill. That has a nice edge on it. Okay, this one has a nice edge. You can feel the whole thing has been sharpened equally. And you can now take this off and sharpen up the bed knife. Now that you have your reel sharpened up, we need to sharpen up this bed knife so that there's good contact between the reel and bed knife and that it's cutting smoothly. I have a bed knife grinder here. It's just a DeWalt bed knife grinder. It has a little grinding reel here. that will allow you to lay flat as you come across this bed knife. So I'm just going to position my cable here so it doesn't catch. I'm going to go left to right, just trying to keep a nice flat plane as I go across this bed knife. I'm going to go over it just a couple times. Soft edge. Now that you have this bed knife sharpened, we're going to adjust the bed knife to reel distance so that it's hitting perfectly. So there's a perfect amount of distance between that so that it's cutting nicely. We're going to use a 16 millimeter as we adjust these down. So we're going to start, we're just going to go 2 clicks down on each side. And you can tell that was already enough, plenty. You can hear it hitting hard. So I'm going to back it off one there, a little bit lighter. Kick that up. You can hear it barely hitting on both those sides. We use a piece of paper here to see if we're hitting level on both sides. So as I spin that, cuts that paper easy, cuts that paper easy, go to the middle, and it cuts easy there. So we know that we're flush on all sides, it's cutting paper level. Now we just need to check the height of the reel. That will be done by flipping it over and measuring the rollers and the height adjustment. Now I'm going to be adjusting my reel height, and you change how high you're cutting by adjusting this front roller here and the height of it, and that will change the height of the bed knife and how high it's cutting. Okay. So I'm going to be using this height gauge. It's by R&R Products. We have our measurements here. We're going to be we're cutting at 1/8, so 0.125. Okay. So you can see this is a digital meter. So as you move this forward and back, it tells you what you're cutting at in decimal points. All right. So as we come over here, we're going to be laying it flat here on our front and back rollers. Okay, and then we're going to be placing that on the other side of the bed knife so that we get an accurate measurement number. So we're sitting at 0.119. So we're just barely off. So we're going to adjust that. We're going to loosen these side bolts. As we loosen this side bolt, you can see here, okay, as I go to tighten this top bolt, then we are changing the height of it. So we're going down, so we want to go up the other direction. We want to raise that front roller until we get to that 0.125 mark. Alright, so now we're going to go to the other side. So we shift over here, we go grab our R&R. Place that in between the bed knife and the reels. So we can see that we are at 0.132. So we're going to loosen this side bolt here. Okay, and we're going to adjust the height of the front roller. So as we do this, bringing that down 0.125 so that it's equal on both sides. Now remember, whatever we do to one side, we got to do to the other, and it's going to change it. Okay, so as we come back to this other side, here we need to make sure that adjustment didn't change too much on this other side. Now we didn't have to move it a lot, so it probably didn't change too much. But we're at 0.123, so it did go down a little bit. So we want to bring that back up. And we're going to tighten down our sides. Tighten down each side. And now we are ready to cut.